friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 15th of April and we are going to cover two very important topics which are in news. First is abortion in USA. USA, which is considered to be the biggest economy, one of the most modern and advanced nations, is undergoing polls this year. And one of the major poll issues is abortion laws in USA. Actually, abortion was granted as a constitutional right according to a case which was there in 1973 in the Supreme Court of USA. But last year in 2022, the Supreme Court of USA quashed that particular judgment. As a result, many states have banned abortion. One of the states has banned abortion and also has initiated provisions to prosecute the doctors who are doing this. Now, in all this, Donald Trump has said that it should be left to the states whether they want to abort it or whether they want to, finish this abortion law or they want to keep it. So, isn't it, I would say, confusing that the most advanced country is not allowing abortion? Well, that is the reality. Next is Switzerland to host peace talks. These talks are obviously between the two conflicting countries since 2022, that is Russia and Ukraine. And this is not the first time that Switzerland has, opted for mediation in conflicts between any two countries. Like for example, in India and Pakistan conflict in 1971, Switzerland played a key role in mediation. It has played a key role in mediation in the conflicts in Middle East as well. So let's see how Switzerland, walks this tightrope. It has invited India and it has clearly said that India's role is going to be very crucial in this meeting, which is going to be conducted in June this year. It is left to see whether the Russian president, the Chinese president, and the American president will attend this meeting or not. And obviously, the Indian Prime Minister or anyone from India. So let us look into the details now. First is abortion issue in USA. So Donald Trump, which is a presidential candidate, has given a statement. He said that abortion limits should be left to the individual states to decide. Actually, after that judgment of the Supreme Court in 2022, where it, quashed the previous judgment, many states have, finished their abortion laws. They have cancelled or annulled their abortion laws. There are demands in USA that there should be a national ban on abortion. And that is why it has become, a very hot topic in the presidential elections. Now, by saying so, Donald Trump clearly said that abortion limit should be left to the individual states. He said that many states will be different. At the end of the day, it's all about the will of the people. That's what we want, the Republican presidential candidate said in his statement. And with his statement, some of the Republican, politicians did not agree. On the other hand, the Democrats were, given a lot of fodder to attack Donald Trump because this is a major issue over there at this time. Now, this Roe versus Wade judgment, this was a landmark judgment in 1973, Roe versus Wade, and the Supreme Court of USA at that time legalized abortion in the United States and made it as a constitutional right. The case recognized that the right to decide whether to continue or end a pregnancy belongs to the individual, not the government. So individual has that right to decide. Now, the US Supreme Court struck down its landmark 1973 Roe versus Wade judgment in June 2022. So, the Supreme Court of USA turned its own judgment of 1973, and courts are allowed to do. In India also, this happens. The previous judgment is overturned by the Supreme Court or the High Court. Now, since this overturning of the judgment, the Roe versus Wade judgment in 2022, 15 Republican governed states have banned nearly all abortion in their states. Latest is Arizona, where the state Supreme Court recently revived a 160-year-old law which even allows for the prosecution of doctors who are, conducting abortions. Now, generally speaking, in Christianity, abortion is considered as a sin. And Christianity also, there are two sects. One is the Protestants and the other are the Catholics. Catholics are the one who are more orthodox, and largely in Catholics, it is believed that abortion is a sin. Some Protestants believe in it, some Protestants do not believe in it. So that is why this kind of issue is popping up in a society like America, because which is dominated by Christians. Now, in all this, you should feel proud that there is an abortion law in India. And as aspirants, we should know about that in detail. And, this clearly highlights the fact that, abortion is more liberal over here in India. Abortions in India are regulated by Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971, which was amended in 2021. Now, there are provisions of this act. We will see. If up to 12 weeks, if you have to do abortion, you need advice of one doctor, according to the 1971 Act. According to the 2021 Act, you need advice of one doctor. No changes in this further, up to 12 weeks. Now, from 12 to 20 weeks, advice of two doctors were required according to the 1971 law. Here, advice of one doctor is only required. 20 to 24 weeks, it was not allowed according to the 1971 law. Here, it was allowed two doctors for some categories of pregnant women. There were changes here in this particular provision later on by the Supreme Court. We will discuss that changes also. But yes, the 2021 Act called for this. Time more than 24 weeks, not allowed. Since it was not allowed for 20 to 24 weeks, so it is called commonsensical that, it will not be allowed for 24 weeks also, more than 24 weeks also. Medical board in case of substantial fetal abnormalities will be constituted, and if and only if this medical board recommends for abortion, then only abortion will happen. Then any time during pregnancy, one doctor, if immediately necessary to save pregnant woman's life. Opinion formed in good faith this is. And if termination due to failure of contraceptive method or device happens, then pregnancy may be terminated up to 20 weeks by a married woman. The changes here were any woman, irrespective of the marital status, can get the pregnancy terminated if the pregnancy happens due to failure of contraceptives. Now, this is basically the law in India, the major provisions of the law, and a comparison also we've seen. Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Amendment Act of 2021. Now, landmark judgments by the Supreme Court after the 2021 amendment came into picture. Now, one such judgment came in 2022, and coincidentally, it came on the International Safe Abortion Day, that is 28th September. The Supreme Court said that unmarried and single women with pregnancies ranging from 20 to 24 weeks access to safe and legal abortion care on par with married women. Means, if I come here 20 to 24 weeks, two doctors for some categories of women were allowed. And in these some categories of women, unmarried and single women were not counted. So the Supreme Court said that why they are not counted, they should also be counted and they should be allowed abortion from 20 to 24 weeks. Unmarried and single women should be allowed. And this has now been included in the law. Then another landmark, I would say, judgment which happened, which did not change anything, but yes, it was about to change something. A lady in Delhi only, she was pregnant and, her pregnancy surpassed 24 weeks. She was 26 weeks pregnant and she approached the Supreme Court for termination of her pregnancy. Now, see, if you have surpassed 24 weeks, time more than 24 weeks, she was here, 26 weeks, medical board in case of substantial fetal abnormality will only allow termination of the pregnancy. So she reached the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court judges asked, why do you want termination of your pregnancy? So she clearly said that my mental health is not good. I will not be able to take care of this baby when this baby will be born. So I want to get it terminated. I'm on having depression and I'm having pills also, and I'll not be able to take care. Now on 9th of October, Supreme Court gave a go ahead as an exceptional circumstance that without going to the medical board, you can go for terminating your pregnancy because you are having this kind of mental disorder or kind of mental, I would say, illness. So 26 weeks pregnancy was allowed to get terminated. But later, on the very next day, the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, said it needs to balance the rights of a living and viable fetus with mother's right to autonomy. He clearly said that, we need to follow the law. And the law says that if more than 24 weeks are there of pregnancy at that time you want termination of your pregnancy, then you should be consulting a medical board which will be constituted for this purpose. And if that board finds out that there is substantial fetal abnormality, there's abnormality in your fetus, then only you will be allowed to terminate. A medical board was set up in AIIMS, Delhi. The medical board could not find any substantial fetal abnormalities, and hence the abortion was not allowed by the Supreme Court. The law upheld itself, the law remained unchanged, and pregnancy was not allowed. So, this is what the Indian law is. It is actually more liberal than the American law. We can actually proudly say that. Now, next is Switzerland to hold peace talks. Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. This event is going to happen on June 15 and 16. This is going to be just after the G7 summit meeting, which is going to happen on June 13 to 15. And 15-16, this peace talks will start in Bergenstock. This G7 summit will be in Italy, not in Switzerland. But this meeting, peace talks, will be happening in Switzerland. Switzerland is going to host this. Now, Switzerland has taken this initiative. Why? Because Switzerland was approached by the Ukrainian president, Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky, who visited Bern in January this year, actually during that World Economic Forum's annual summit, the Davos summit. And he requested Switzerland. Why Switzerland was requested? Because Switzerland has a known history in mediating in conflicts. We look into that as well. But Switzerland has made its point very clear that it is going to host this kind of peace talks. And Switzerland wants India to participate in the conference, to which some 120 countries will be invited at the level of heads of state or government, means the topmost level. It remains to be seen whether US President Joe Biden will be able to take time out in the middle of his re-election campaign, because presidential campaigns and all will be going on in USA at that time, or whether Russia's President Vladimir Putin and China's President Xi Jinping will attend this meeting or not. Both these countries have announced their friendship, and their friendship is friendship without limits. Will they attend or not? It is left to see. Now, aims of this conference, what are going to be the aims of this conference? Basically, the idea is to provide a platform for a high-level dialogue on ways to achieve a comprehensive, just and lasting peace for Ukraine based on international law and the UN Charter. Till now, it has not happened, but yes, Switzerland is showing some hopes. Then the conference will aim to create a common understanding of framework conducive to this goal and concrete roadmap for the peace process. So a concrete roadmap will be rolled out. And very much clear, I would like to make this point over here is that the Swiss officials who are hosting this peace talks have clearly said that we are not going to pass any judgment after the first meeting. Sooner or later, Russia has to be part of these talks. Ukraine though is already going to be part of these talks, and we want to take on board major countries or major stakeholders, and including BRICS countries largely, because BRICS is basically a group of developing countries and Russia is a part of this, and probably that's why they are saying that India definitely should be part of this. So they are not in a hurry of, I would say, passing out a judgment. These are the outcomes of the peace talks. Multiple meetings will happen. They know that and they are ready for that. Switzerland had earlier hosted Ukraine Recovery Conference at Lugano in July 2022 and a National Security Advisors meeting in Davos this year. Now, the Swiss history of mediation. See, neutrality is the foundational principle of the foreign policy of Switzerland, and similarly, India's foundational policy is also neutrality. But in the past, it has acted as, a mediator during the world wars, especially during World War II. Switzerland represented India's interest in Pakistan and Pakistan's in India between 1971 and 76 after that Bangladesh Liberation War. Then over the last 2 decades, Switzerland has been protecting power between Saudi Arabia and Iran, US and Iran, Russia and Georgia, and other pairs of mutually hostile governments. It hosted talks between the government in Colombo and the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam in 2006. Although at that time, the civil war in Sri Lanka was almost coming to a standstill or coming to an end. But yes, I would say major role was played by Switzerland. Now, what role has been played by Switzerland in the Russia-Ukraine war till now? See, Switzerland has largely been on Ukraine's side till now. and it has also joined the Western sanctions regime against Russia. But now it has, came back to its original, I would say, being, that is being a mediator, and it is, trying its bit. But we should know the viewpoints of both these countries, Russia and Ukraine. Are they willing for these peace talks to happen? Because these are the two major stakeholders in these peace talks. So Ukraine obviously is willing because it was requested by the Ukrainian president by to Switzerland government in January this year. So Zelensky has sought India's support on a 10-point peace formula, which calls for the withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine, release of prisoners, restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity, and guarantees on nuclear safety, food and energy security. So everything Ukraine is wanting. Russia should go back, restore its own territory, then sovereignty should be restored, or territorial integrity should be restored. All these things Ukraine is demanding. And how is Russia responding to this 10-point formula? For Russia, this formula is a non-starter. Means it is saying that we are not going to do that. Now Russia says that it is pointless and the peace effort is doomed to fail if it doesn't take Russia's interest into account. Because this 10-point formula is not taking Russia's interest into account. It is only Ukraine's interest. It has said it is willing to enter talks about Ukraine, but these must respect Russia's security interests and reflect the new realities. New realities is what? Around a fifth of Ukraine is under Russia's control. Now that should be permanently given to Russia. Russia's demand is this. And, the I would say regions which are there in the easternmost part of Ukraine, they should be merged with Russia. This is what Russia says, because these are the new realities according to Russia. Now, India, Russia and Ukraine. Where does India stand between these two countries? Now, from the beginning of this conflict, India has walked a diplomatic tightrope, I would say. India has largely been neutral, and we have kept this stand very clear that this era is not an era of war and India is ready to contribute in any peace talks. However, we have abstained from voting against Russia in the resolutions tabled in the United Nations Security Council. So we have largely positioned ourselves as, neutral, and on the other hand, we have increased our energy imports from Russia manifold. Now, what has been evolution of India's position? Since the outbreak of the war in February 2022, India has walked a diplomatic tightrope between Russia and Ukraine. It did not explicitly condemn the invasion, but it did call for international probe into the Bucha massacre, which happened during the start of the war only, and a lot of people were massacred, and expressed concern over nuclear threats issued by Russian leaders. So, Russian leaders issued a lot of nuclear threats, and these nuclear threats, India outrightly condemned it. CIA, on the other hand, says that it was Indian leadership who, was able to stop Russian leadership, else they would have launched these nuclear attacks. India abstained from voting against Russia in several resolutions at the United Nations Security Council. In September 2022, Prime Minister Narendra Modi told Putin that this era is not an era of war. This happened during the SCO summit, and this was reverberated again in the Bali summit of G20 in November 2022. At the G20 summit in New Delhi, in September 2023, India was able to forge a consensus and get a joint declaration to which both the US-led West and Russia-backed China agreed. So this was a big victory for us. And Modi has at least 5 phone conversations with Putin, at least 4 with Zelensky. And in all these conversations, he has, advocated to resolve the conflict by dialogue. Now, during the telephonic conversations last month, the Ukrainian president thanked India for its support for its country's sovereignty and said it would be important for Ukraine to see India as part of the conference in Switzerland. Will India be part of this conference? Well, actually, India should be part of this conference. As of now, it is very difficult to say, and I don't think so that presently, the Indian leadership is thinking about it, because the Indian leadership is quite busy in campaigning for the elections over here, which are scheduled in May and June starting. The result will be there. And obviously this, peace talks are going to happen after the results get announced. So the new government will be attending these talks, should attend these talks. India has an opportunity, or India should look at these talks, peace talks, as an opportunity to, increase its weightage at the global stage, because we are wanting to be part of the United Nations Security Council's permanent membership. We are wanting to get that. So we should look at it in this way. And this ends the topic. Now the MCQs. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971 allows abortion for 20 weeks for any category of women. If any woman wants to terminate her 20 to 24 weeks pregnancy, she has to be advised by a medical board. Which of these statements are correct? Simple question it is. The International Safe Abortion Day is celebrated on which day? Direct question, factual question. Russia-Ukraine peace talks are expected to be conducted in which city? Again, a direct question. Switzerland has not mediated in which of the following conflicts? Indo-China conflict of 1962, Iran-Saudi Arabia conflict, USA-Iran conflict, or India-Pakistan conflict of 1971. And which of the countries hosted the Ukraine Recovery Conference in 2022? Name the country. Direct questions. In this video, I expect all the right answers. And with this, we come to an end of today's session. I will be meeting you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. I'm not repeating it today. Namaste. Jai Hind.